We cannot just brush over this. I mean, there are many people with passion that want to stand up and fight against the latest fight. You know, the civil rights movement of the 60s, that's come and gone. We can all stand up against racism. But there's anti-Semitism that is happening right now. And if you want to stand up against something, this is something for us to all say, this is not okay.
I'm going to start a GoFundMe. And I'm going to help Betty get a little nest egg so Betty can retire. And as of today, they closed it at the end of April, but as of today, Tammy has raised $335,315.
Set up for my ultrasound on February 3rd and talked to the radiologist afterwards, and he was like, yeah, there's something. It's not big, but it's something, and you need to get a biopsy, and we're going to get you scheduled. And I got a call, and my primary care physician said, Lisa, you've got breast cancer.
Hello, my name is Deborah Flora. This is my friend Mandy.
Hello, I'm Mandy Connell, and this is my friend Deb. And together we are Mandy and Deb.
And guess what?
Yes?
Yes, you may have seen last show. We had it all framed, and now it's hung up.
It's even fancier now, though, because they went with a bigger frame, and I'm pretty impressed.
Thank you.
I feel big time.
I feel grown up because our sign is even hung up now, so that's good.
Very, very good.
Absolutely. And we got a great show ahead of you. We're going to have the topics we talk about. We've got issues. We've got a great guest coming up who's going to talk about something very important to all of us ladies, which is taking care of yourself. And then we always end with?
We end up with some good news. But today we also have, I want to talk a little bit about that whole we're taking care of ourselves, because in the news this past week, we have had big news about Joe Biden announcing that he had prostate cancer. So there's been a lot of discussion about prostate cancer. And we figured, since we're a chick show, and we are a chick show, we would talk about the most important cancer for us, which happens to be breast cancer.
Yes, indeed. And we've got a courageous woman who's going to tell her story a little bit later on. But before we do, as we always like to say, please subscribe.
Yes.
Button down there. And follow us on social media. It is on Facebook, Mandy & Deb. Yes.
Because we're fancy. We're big time, so we have to use the ampersand, not just a plain old A-N-D. No. Okay, that's not enough for us.
Especially because our sign is now hung on the wall.
We're slowly but surely taking over the Independence Institute.
Yes,
one hung sign at a time. There you go.
We are indeed. Oh, is it time?
It's time.
Okay, going to kick us off.
Because we've got issues, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, do we have issues. Now, I asked
Wait, real quick. Take that however you want to, by the way.
No, it's serious. We have issues.
Intended.
Let me talk for a second about something I said to Deborah. I said, we've got to talk about what's going on in the stock market. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am some kind of financial wizard who's going to give out all kinds of financial advice. But here's something I know with great certainty, and that is, if you are staring at your 401k or your IRA or your investment accounts every day right now, you're going to make yourself absolutely insane. So, as a 55-year-old person who is closer to retirement than I am not retirement, I understand the urge. But today was the day that my retirement accounts got back to where they were at the first of the year.
Yes.
And here's what I didn't do. Since January 20th, the beginning of any presidency is crazy when it comes to the stock market. This one especially so. So I'm here today to tell you it's okay to buy and hold. And more importantly, buy and look away, right? The stock market can make you very, very crazy if you try to follow it every single day. Now, if you're a daily investor, if you work in the stock market, I get it. You've got to pay attention. But for normal rank and file people, there's been so much anxiety and so much stress over the last 3 months. We've got to let things play out. And as we talked earlier in previous shows, like the tariffs are in play and all of these different things are happening. So I'm here to tell you, it's okay to not look. It's okay to just go with the flow. And if you're closer to retirement than I am, there's not a whole lot you can do about it right now anyway. So I'm really just here to tell you, simmer down. It's going to be okay. Buy and hold is the strategy that Warren Buffett used, and by gosh, it's been okay for him.
There you go. So I'm going to listen to Mandy and Warren Buffett. I have actually been following the kind of ostrich, put your head in the sand until this all passes over. And I'm happy to report I didn't look at our 401k for the last 2 months. In fact, I decided to take a little bit of a break from it and was happy to only look at it now to see the big drop and then come back up again.
Mhm.
But Mandy, I think it brings up a bigger issue, which is in this day and age where we get news constantly,
Right.
24/7, we are always on our phones. We're never one step away from anything. I often refer to it, or I should say, I quote Vivek Ramaswamy, who called it the tyranny of the urgent. So I actually think it's really healthy for us on every front to just kind of put our phones away. I mean, when was the last time that we got a text and said, don't have to answer that right now? I mean, instead of feeling like somebody's yanking us by our
Right.
chain all the time.
Oddly enough, I got a text earlier today, and as I was going to respond to it because it was very urgent, I got like 40 other text messages. So I realized I didn't respond to that first text message
It was
until
my text. She
No,
never
was it?
responds to me.
Shame, I do.
Just kidding.
No, I
just
send her
kidding.
emails instead just to keep her on her toes. No, but I didn't respond to that earlier text until much later in the afternoon. And you know what happened? No one died.
There you go.
No one died.
Yeah.
It's fine. What it's all taken care of. I agree with you. And
Yes.
you had a radio show.
Yes, I did.
So you know what it's like to get up every day and your job is to consume the news. And having that job is one of the best jobs in the world, not complaining about it at all. But I have learned that when I go on vacation with my family, first thing I do is take Twitter off of my phone.
Yes.
Because if Twitter's like a drug and I love it, and I know it's called X now, I don't care. Elon, I'm never going to change. I'm never going to change. But I love I love the platform, right? So I go and I take all of that stuff off and I truly have a break from the news, because the other thing I know for certain is that it'll be the same crap, different day when I get back. It will be exactly the same, change the names. It's still going to be a dumpster fire in some ways. So I always urge people, especially my listeners, which is awkward because I do a daily show and I want people to listen daily. Like, it's okay to turn it off.
Yes,
it's okay.
Particularly when you're with family. I mean, when I look around the table, I'm like, everyone that I would really consider an emergency is sitting right here. Put the phone away. So that is our investment and tax advice.
Exactly. Oh, we should have given a disclaimer.
Hashtag, this is not a financial advising show.
Hashtag, don't listen to us when it comes to this. Just ignore us completely. Now that we've wasted 5 minutes telling people to ignore us. But seriously,
I think it's profound wisdom of life, no matter what.
It all comes down to balancing your life in a way that allows you to have joy and happiness, but doesn't always have to be mired in the nonsense of politics. It's distressing to me when I see people online or they're having a meltdown or whatever, and it's apparent that the only thing they think is important in their lives is politics.
Oh my goodness.
You guys, it is a soul-sucking industry, and if you allow that to become your focus, it will suck the life out of you as well.
Yeah.
So we're just giving you permission to not do that. And if that's what you're looking for, permission, you now have it.
And by the way, back to the original introduction to this topic, which has now been this impartation of deep life advice, which I agree with.
Yeah.
The fact that of the stock markets, the up and down with the tariffs that happened, even those in that industry now have decided to no longer react. That's the other lesson. They now realize it's all going to work itself out in the end. When you have a president who talks about the art of the deal, you begin to realize there's a lot of hyperbole that is not always exactly what's going on.
I loved when I heard someone say, I take the president seriously, but I don't take him literally. And I think that with Donald Trump, that's the way you have to be. But ultimately, when things are said or things are done, you don't have to react. And I said this to a friend of mine who was in the stock market for a long time. He is male. And I said, the next time someone says that men are not emotional, I'm just going to point to the stock market because that's where they express their emotional distress, right?
Or football games.
Well, yes, but they react emotionally to the stock market and it goes, and here we are.
So switching gears, there is something that I am going to react to, and we do like to talk about some things that are more serious because it's important, but many of you may have heard about the 2 young members that were from the Israeli embassy that were murdered outside of the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Here's why we want to bring it up. We talk a lot on this show about us being a part of lowering the temperature of what is going on. The person who killed this young couple that, by the way, the young man had just bought an engagement ring and was going to propose the next week in Jerusalem. The man who shot them from Chicago was yelling afterwards, "Free, free Palestine," and he admitted to being anti-Semitic. Here is why we're bringing it up. We cannot just brush over this. I mean, there are many people with passion that want to stand up and fight against the latest fight. You know, the civil rights movement of the 60s, that's come and gone. We can all stand up against racism. But there's anti-Semitism that is happening right now. And if you want to stand up against something, this is something for us to all say, this is not okay. And you know what's even more ironic about it, Mandy, is that this couple was part of an event being hosted at the Jewish Museum that was for young diplomats from many different countries. And what were they working for? They were actually, and this was the irony of it, they were bringing together Muslim, Christian, and Jewish groups to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza. That's why they were gathering. And the minute that people are profiled like that, we have to speak out about it. We have to be the ones to say that's not okay.
I want to point out to the young students on college campuses,
Yes.
if you've been chanting globalize the Intifada, this is what you're chanting. This is what you're asking for. When we trivialize what the Intifada actually was, which was Palestinian dissidents attacking Jews in pizza parlors, blowing themselves up on buses, killing little children on a regular basis. That's what the Intifada was. It was an uprising specifically designed to kill Jews. So this guy from Chicago was on mission for globalizing the Intifada. And I think it's time for us to hold those who are chanting such things responsible for their words. And I'm not saying throw them in jail. That's not it. We have free speech, but we have to make sure that they understand exactly what they're talking about.
Yes.
Because I highly doubt most students who are throwing on a keffiyeh and walking around campus would walk up and want someone else to be murdered in front of them.
Yep.
But that's what they're advocating for. So it's time for the rest of us to stand up and say, this is not okay.
Yep.
This is not what we're going to allow. And if you're chanting globalize the Intifada, you're chanting for murder.
Yeah, and it legitimizes it. And
Correct.
I do think an action that's being taken, and once again, it's going to produce a little bit of outrage. But when you look at the reasons behind it, the Trump administration just stated that for national security reasons, they are going to halt foreign student visas until they can improve the process. They're going to make sure they now look through social media. And I think that's fine, by the way. You want to go for a job interview, by the way, they're going to look at your social media, and that indicates a lot. And so before we react about that, saying that that's not good, many of the leaders of these riots that have been happening, these anti-Semitic riots where Jewish students have been hiding, been being barred, been being terrorized, many of them they are finding were on student visas and their backgrounds and their profiles were not checked out thoroughly. One of the main leaders, ringleaders, who's now been arrested, was on a foreign visa. And when you checked his social media, this is exactly what he was calling for, global intifada.
I think that if you have in any point said death to America on your social media, you've lost the privilege of coming to the United States of America. And that might seem harsh and it might seem unwieldy, but the reality is, if you are chanting for the death of my country, we don't need you here, period.
Yep.
I don't care what your deal is. I really don't.
Because then you have to ask, why do you want to be here then?
Right.
It's not because you just want to try out, a New York
Deli
or something like that. That's not the reason. Okay, we are going to lighten it up a little bit, kind of lighten it up.
Well,
I don't know if this is lighter or not, but go ahead, Mandy.
If you know Jennifer Lopez,
I don't know her personally.
tell her that I need to talk to her because something happened at the American Music Awards. And here's the thing. I'm about to say this and I'm not being prudish. I'm not being like, oh my gosh, it was so scandalous. I'm being,
that's not how Mandy talks, by the way.
I am being, it is so played out. And let me explain what I'm talking about. Jennifer Lopez is my age. Now, I wish that I looked like Jennifer Lopez. Like, I wish that I had the discipline to work out as much as she does.
Or you had the money to hire a 24/7 personal trainer.
Correct.
That's what that is.
She was on the American Music Awards last Sunday night. And in what I perceive to be a desperate bid for relevance in her performance, which was otherwise amazing because she's an incredible dancer, she decided it was going to be a good idea for her to first kiss a male dancer behind her and then kiss a female dancer behind her. And I'm like, girl, Madonna beat you to it when she kissed Britney Spears. But is this now code for my career's on the decline?
Yeah.
Like, so if my radio show starts to fail, do I just find some woman or and just make out with them? It's just, you guys.
And by the way, you're never going to see that on this show.
No, you're not. You're not going to see it because we're never going to be that desperate. But why can't we just allow these women to age a little bit.
Yes.
She looks amazing. She
Yeah.
looks as good now as she looked when she was 35, but somehow that's not good enough.
I know.
We have to embrace some kind of gimmick.
Yep.
Honestly, I felt bad for her.
Well, and I want to point out another part too. Yes, I do wish I looked like that. But the reality is there was another freneticism to it. I was looking up afterwards because I got to say, I don't watch award shows anymore. And the majority of America doesn't either because of these sorts of things. But she literally did 23 songs in 6 minutes. She wore 8 costumes, one of which was a crystal-covered nude bodysuit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm also not being prude, but when you try that hard, and I do think that we need to get back, Mandy, to where there is an age in between, you know, sex kitten and matron. You know, how about we just have, you know, you feel good
Deborah,
about yourself?
wait a minute.
What?
I went shopping last weekend.
Oh, no. What happened?
First of all, I tried on some clothes that styles that I've worn many, many times before. And I'm standing there looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I'm a little mutton dressed up like lamb, right? And so, but what am I going to rush down to Chico's and J. Jill and Talbot's? I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready. So there's like this weird space.
Do you know what? We need to have that on our show. I have seen some amazing things. Well, it's upcoming. This is already a sneak peek of when you get to the age you can dress stylish and you can dress awesome.
I know, but
you don't have to wear the nude. You did not try to nude
I
sparkly
did. It was
bodysuit.
not as flattering as I was hoping.
Well,
I was going to
there
pick
you
that
go.
up for our
There you
next
go.
show.
And
if I
I have
got
only one last comment about Jennifer Lopez. So our kids are 20 and 21. She has twins who are 17. And I often say to our kids that it's my job as their mom to embarrass them occasionally. But I did call them afterwards and say, hey, at least I'm not kissing men and women on stage in a nude bodysuit. Yeah. That's an embarrassment of a whole sort. Yeah. But rock on.
That's goals. Hashtag goals. Embarrassment goals. So at some point in the near future, both Deb and I will be on the show in a nude bodysuit. But mine will be a large. There'll be a lot of spangles on mine.
And
okay, there'll be a lot of glitter.
Yes,
to cover a lot of areas.
But it will be made out of canvas.
Oh, there you go. Yes, she'll have. I was going to make an inappropriate joke about that.
Okay.
On that note,
it's time for us to switch topics. I think we would agree. So next we've got stuff. Now, stuff can mean anything to do with our lifestyles, and particularly as women, there's some key issues that we always want to talk about. As Mandy said at the beginning, it's really important that we talk about things like breast cancer, which is something that every single one of us should be aware of. And if you're a guy watching, which means you're really cool, you want to listen to this for your wife or the loved one in your life. So I'm very happy to introduce an amazing guest who is a woman of courage, who has graciously agreed to talk with us about this. And being in Colorado, she's one of our Colorado state senators. So
she's my state senator.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And she is mine as well. So the reality is she's an amazing woman. She serves under the dome, but she also has been really generous to share her story. So Lisa Frizell, Colorado State Senator, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Lisa, I want to kind of start this story by asking you how you're very busy. You're in the legislature. Goodness knows you've spent a lot of time fighting some hot garbage bills here in Colorado.
Hot garbage.
But when did you go for your mammogram? How did this whole journey start?
Yeah, so I went for my annual mammogram back in December. And it was at the beginning of December, and got a letter I went to Sally Joe. That's where I usually go every year, actually. I'm really religious about this, right? Because I think it's important. I don't have breast cancer in my family, but this is one of those things you check like a colonoscopy, you got to check the list. And no matter how much you hate it, you got to do it. But I got a letter back saying, there's something funky. We need for you to come back in for an ultrasound. And I made an appointment. I've actually had kind of a weird mammogram years ago where I had to go back for an ultrasound. So I figured it was like the same thing. No big deal, right? So I showed up for my ultrasound on February 3rd and talked to the radiologist afterwards. And he was like, there's something. It's not big, but it's something. And you need to get a biopsy, and we're going to get you scheduled. And then I got my biopsy literally on the 6th of February. And February 7th, my primary care physician called me. I was at the Capitol, literally walking from my office into the Capitol, and I got a call, and my primary care physician said, Lisa, you've got breast cancer. And she talked to me about what kind the biopsy indicated it was and what some next steps were going to be. And I literally went and sat in my car to have this conversation, and I was in shock. I never expected it. Again, no family history. I live a fairly healthy lifestyle, so it was completely out of the blue.
Yeah. It's interesting because Lisa, you shared a statistic that I didn't even know, because whenever, we go in, and it's great that you were getting an annual mammogram so they could catch it early, but you shared that only 10% of women who get breast cancer actually have a family history. So I think that's surprising. But I love also when we talked about this, you're on here because you want to share a lot of hope and good news as well. And in your process, you found about all these advances in treatment and detection of breast cancer. Can you share some of that?
Right. This has become such an amazing science, and as frightening as it is to hear those words, and as horrific as it is to make those phone calls to your children to tell them that you've got cancer, or your husband, because my first phone call was to my husband. There is so much hope out there that I had no idea about. There are all of these genetic markers that the doctors check out while they're going through doing the biopsy and other testing. I did have the genetic test done as well. It was a blood test, and found out that I don't have any genetic markers for breast cancer. This is just one of those 90% of other people. But the cool thing about science today when it comes to breast cancer is that because of the genetic markers, they can customize your treatment to exactly what you have, which is fascinating. It's so, so amazing. Mine was caught early, but it had spread to a lymph node. So I had to have more extensive radiation treatment. But that was, again, customized to what the markers that I have. And I'm going to be going through additional treatment, including probably just oral chemo, which is not just an adjust. It's still a big thing, right? It's going to be a couple of years of really messing with my body. But I think I really, really want people to walk away knowing that breast cancer is not what it was when my mom was my age or when she was 50. It is so different. And the words that my surgeon said, that when I first met my surgeon, she got up close to me in my face, and she's the most amazing woman. I'm so lucky with my treatment team, but she got up to me in my face and she said, "You are going to be fine. You are going to be just fine." And I'll tell you, I burst into tears. Because it's a lot. I mean, nobody wants to hear cancer. But the reality is breast cancer, if caught early, is so treatable and minimally invasive treatable. I was lucky. I just had to have a lumpectomy. Many people have to have much more because it's not caught early. So my message is it completely sucks getting a mammogram. It's the worst. We all hate it. But do it because it can save your life. It makes a difference.
One of the things I'd like to say to your point about that, Lisa, that getting a mammogram does kind of suck. But I think that there is a perception among some women that it is like the worst thing ever. It's uncomfortable, but it's fast, especially if you go to a good radiology center. I go to the same one you do, Lisa. So they do a great job, and I call them the professional boob smashers because they know that we don't want to be in that position any more than we can. But I wanted to ask you, did the doctor say anything about why they didn't see anything the prior year? Or was the type of cancer that you had just popped up in that year between mammograms?
It just popped up in that year between mammograms. It was I ended up having two kinds this is, again, really interesting. There's all these different types of breast cancer. Some are ductal, some are lobular. And I had 2 different kinds of ductal cancer, but the one that they found through my mammogram was super, super small. And it was relatively slow growing, but it was only about 5 millimeters. And even my surgeon, before surgery, she said, you couldn't have found this yourself.
Okay.
It was so small.
Yeah.
And so that's the power of getting a mammogram. The other one was actually found through an MRI, and that was a non-invasive type of cancer, but still had to be removed. So it's really important that keeping up that schedule, that doing it annually, don't let another year go by, because if I had let another year go by, my outcome could have been much more. I still probably would have been fine, but I would have had to have a mastectomy. I might not have been fine because it could have spread elsewhere in my body.
Yeah. And Lisa, that's so important. I always think you're inspiring to me, because I'm like, if Lisa, who is a state senator who went after that diagnosis back into committee meeting, can always make sure that you schedule an annual mammogram, none of us have an excuse. Lisa, we were also talking about, now that you're going through this, you have obviously a great doctor, but for those, like, let's say maybe we know someone who has this diagnosis or any kind of cancer diagnosis, what would you say to the rest of the women? How do we support those who have it? How do we support the family members and the men who are watching? How do we support someone who has this diagnosis?
That's such a great question. I really appreciate you asking. I'll tell you, I had a friend who, when I told her about my diagnosis, this is a really good friend of mine, who said, yeah, I've got a friend who's been going through radiation, and boy, it's just kicking her butt. This has been, and I was like, well, and it was just like once. The first time I was like, okay, whatever. But it was like the second or third time I said, you know what? I need for you to not talk to me about that, because my cancer is my cancer. My treatment is going to be my treatment, and I'm going to be fine. I'm good. So I think that a lot of it is be positive, be supportive, be there. A lot of times, and this is real, I've talked to other people, other friends who have had cancer or who have it, and they feel, in some cases, ostracized by some of their normal support circle. And it's sometimes because people don't know what to say. Sometimes it's because there is really this mentality that you could catch cancer, which is of course not true. But it's just be present, be supportive, and I've been so worried about my own husband, because he's been such a rock. He's always been my rock, but he's just shown up and been there for me, like driving me to and from the Capitol, because he didn't want me driving or going through the stress of driving, or after my surgery driving. So, I mean, he's really been there for me, and I've worried a lot about who's there for him. And we're blessed that we have some great friends who reach out to him. They stay in contact. They say, hey, do you want to go grab coffee? Just to check in with him, because that's really important. And having those people for your family members is critical.
Lisa, one last question. And I've always wondered this, because, I think everybody knows someone who's had cancer. We probably all know someone who has beaten cancer. We know someone who's died from cancer. How much do you think your personal outlook and attitude have come into play? And how do you maintain a positive attitude when you're sort of, going through it and getting treatments that might not be a lot of fun?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I actually had daily radiation treatments in April on my way up to the Capitol every day. It was, at first, the first few weeks were okay, but it was like I got to a point where I was just kind of beaten down physically and mentally from the whole thing, because it was just very stressful. Plus, nothing is stressful about being at the Capitol, right? Nothing. It's always good. Rainbows and unicorns. But, I really, relying on the people around me and just putting one foot in front of the other every day, knowing that it's going to be better and I'm going to be okay. And that became kind of a mantra, is I'm going to be okay. It's going to be better. You've got this. And you just keep walking forward. It's not easy, but it's very doable. And you know, you started out the show talking about balance, right? When you're on vacation and you talk about the extremes, the highs and lows of the stock market. But life is about seasons, and this is a season that you know, we all have seasons. Some are better than others. Some are great. Some suck. This is just one of those seasons, and continue to experience the joy in life because there's so much out there. And I am blessed because I am going to be okay. And I have a great team of doctors, and I've got great friends, and I've got an amazing husband. I'm blessed because there are people I thought radiation that have a whole harder road than I do.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all about perspective, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is. Lisa, thank you so much. And I just want to give you a huge shout out because not only are you serving as our senator here in Colorado, but when Lisa was going through all of that treatment, you know, my husband and I were there at 10:30 at night waiting to testify. But you were right there, Lisa, on that committee. You never stopped working. And while you obviously need to take care of yourself, you're an amazing lady. And I want to say right back to you, you are going to be okay. And we're going to pray for you. And we just so appreciate your generosity in sharing your story so other women can hear and know what they need to do to also take care of themselves. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much thank you for spreading this message because it's an important one, and God bless you, both of you. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you, Lisa.
So when was your last mammogram?
It was 3 weeks ago. Yay!
I have mine on my phone annually.
Oh, there you go. Good
I'm
for
not
you.
going to lie. I'd love to tell you I do it annually. I have it on my phone annually. We're working towards doing it annually, but it's in my phone annually.
Now that we are
Progress.
doing the show, I will make sure that
Progress.
she has it every single year. I don't know how I'm going to make sure of that other than I will add to your phone. But
Deborah will be like, let me just hold your boob for you. No, that's not going to happen.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
All kinds of weird things are going to come out of this show. Hot tubs and
It's good.
nude
No big deal.
bodysuits.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
this is hashtag this is not that show.
We're
okay.
way past that.
You want to move on?
Yes, I'm so excited about my We've Got Good News story. I had it for last time, and then I had a different story, so I left Betty on the table last time, and I'm getting Betty in this time.
Go, Betty.
Betty is a waitress in Pennsylvania, outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Betty was working in a restaurant, and she had a customer named Tammy Conjure. And Tammy. And Tammy was chatting with Betty, and Betty said that she could not afford to retire. Even though she was 80, she was still working full time because she could not get by on her pension that she had. So Tammy was inspired by Betty and thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a GoFundMe. And I'm going to help Betty get a little nest egg so Betty can retire. And as of today, they closed it at the end of April, but as of today, Tammy has raised $335,315. They've hired an elder law attorney and a trust attorney, so they're going to put all of this money in a trust for Betty so Betty can retire from being a waitress. And I thought that was like the sweetest thing, and the power of one person.
Yes.
The power of one person saying, this woman should be able to retire, and the power of one woman saying, gosh darn it, I'm going to help Betty retire. And I just thought, I have little goosebumps thinking about it. And I want to call Betty and say, Betty, why don't you come to Denver? Like come and like give Betty a little tour of Denver. Because I just,
that.
You know, there are so many older people out there that are in Betty's position, you know, and Tammy changed this woman's life just because she said, That's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
And what I love about that too is last show, one of the kindness challenges was to find something like that GoFundMe account that pulls on your heartstrings and give, because then you become a part of that blessing. So that's a great story. I want to share a story about a Good Samaritan, but in a different way. So I want to share a story. This is actually from Montreal, but it is a universal kind of story. So there's an 86-year-old gentleman, grandfather, father, Sabato Borelli. And he fell and had a heart attack in the park that he'd walk every single day. I mean, it was a major heart attack. And a Good Samaritan showed up out of the blue and began administering CPR. Now, what was interesting was this Good Samaritan, who is nameless for a particular reason, didn't just do the 45 seconds or whatever that most people would do and go, oh, I guess not. Kept doing CPR for 20 minutes.
Oh, that is so
managed
hard.
to call 911 at the same time, kept doing it until the ambulance showed up. And today, Sabato Borelli, who was 86 at the time, just celebrated his 87th birthday. But this Good Samaritan was kind of either an angel or a superhero, because they did that and then they disappeared. And the family is looking far and wide to thank this one Good Samaritan. And what was even more interesting is you never know how even further it's going to touch your life. Sabato's daughter was very moved. She was there when Sabato woke up. Her own daughter, Sabato's granddaughter, had died of a heart attack. So for this woman to have her father's life saved, she was just incredibly blessed. And I want to lead from that into our kindness challenge, because that's what we always want to do. And with some good stories, some good news, because by the way, one of the things I love about our good news stories is most of the time it's just about human beings being kind, doing something good. And my kindness challenge is this, and I'm kind of looking at myself. I want to learn CPR. I want to learn CPR, because if not, then I don't want to be that person that sees that happen and doesn't know what to do other than staying alive to that beat.
I've got a new CPR song. Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan is my CPR song.
I don't know that one.
Well, that's because it's about a strip club. So my friend Deborah does not know anything about strip clubs.
Okay. Jennifer Lopez will help you with I'm sorry.
She probably has a song.
She's a stripper, but
she probably has a song for that. No, that's an excellent. Learn CPR, learn some basic. I had to learn it when I was a flight attendant. So I know how to do it. I have performed CPR for a very long period of time.
Wow.
It is physically exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yes, it is physically exhausting. And then they took the patient that we were performing CPR on for 25 minutes off the plane, and I have no idea what happened to him.
So you did that on an airplane?
Yeah, as a flight attendant.
Oh my
We had
goodness.
a passenger have a heart attack, and we're not flight attendants are not allowed to declare you dead on an airplane.
I like that.
So we did CPR until we landed, and then, like I said, they took him off, and I have no idea if that man ever lived or died. So that was a little frustrating for me.
Yeah, but that's amazing, because if you learn CPR, you literally could be the person that saved someone's life. And I know there have been news stories that have caused people to want to pull back from helping strangers. Let's not do that. Let's buck the trend. And it could just be if someone's fallen. It could be if someone's choking. I want to learn the Heimlich maneuver also. Did I say maneuver?
Heimlich maneuver, not manure. No Heimlich maneuver.
Wow.
Dr. Heimlich would be very upset if you, anyway.
It shows I need to take the class because I can't even say it right.
So my gratitude or act of kindness is a self-directed act of kindness. And that is, I would love for you to, at the end of every evening, when you're laying in bed, trying to go to sleep, thinking about all the stuff you have to do, I want you to do 3 gratitude sort of notices. And I'm not talking about gratitude prayers. I'm not talking about big thank yous. But everybody should have 3 things in their day that they can say, that was kind of awesome. And sometimes they're small things. Sometimes my gratitude goes like this. I didn't murder anyone today. And I'm grateful for that. So
I'm grateful too.
It's all a scale. You know what I mean? But it helps me so much to put my mind in a good place before I go to sleep, and you wake up the next day and I'm thinking, we're talking about kindness to other people. What about kindness to ourselves? So I have a kindness to yourself challenge this week, and that is at the end of every night when you're laying in bed, can't go to sleep, just think of 3 things that happened that day that were great or mildly good or not horrible, if that's where you are, if you're having one of those days. And if you do it every night, I promise you, you will wake up in a better mood.
I love that, because we can be so critical.
Oh,
We're
gosh,
so
yes.
hypercritical all the time. And I love that. And to take it also then to a prayer level, I remember we were blessed, my husband and I, to be friends with an older Jewish couple, and the wife had survived the Holocaust. And they said that their routine every night was to say to one another what they were grateful for that day and then close in a prayer. And I thought, man, if someone can do that who saw the horrors that she saw, we can do that. And I love that. So I think that's a great one.
All right, guys, it has been another stunning Mandy and Deb show, but don't forget before you leave to hit that subscribe button.
Right there.
That's how you make sure that you don't miss a show. And while you're on IITV, I don't know if you guys have poked around at all on this channel, but while you're on IITV, there's so many other great programs. We know all the people that do these programs, and they are fantastic. You're going to learn something. You're probably going to laugh. And they're just really, really good. So check them all out.
Absolutely. And this is a conversation. We also want to hear from you. So follow us on our Facebook page at Mandy Deb, ampersand, because we're fancy, at Mandy and Deb, and let us know some topics you want to listen to, what you want to hear about. And we just want to hear from you. So thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.